Hi, I'm Andrew Nason. I've been doing comedy for 10 years. It's an extended period, a lot of my life. Too much of my life, to be honest. I've given my life to this art form. Anyway, I'm not crying. It's all good. How did I get into comedy? By accident. I used to be a school teacher. Secondary school teacher, and I think that's a perfect in for comedy because as a school teacher you stand in front of a group of people for 40 minutes and you have to judge whether they're getting bored and you try and keep them entertained, and then you finish and you go, thank fuck for that. Well, I wasn't always a comedian. For quite a number of years I was a child. That went relatively well for me. I do remember though once my father getting very angry and reminding us that my brother and I put our mother in an early grave, and we had to remind him that she did dig her way out and we were never charged. So there you go. I was on tour in New Zealand with a couple of other comedians, and we're on the flight back, and we'd been mucking around on the flight as comedians do, but this guy has made his way up and basically said to us that he had to go back to New Zealand for his brother's funeral, and his brother had died quite suddenly. It was very tragic, and it was a very full-on week that he was there, and in the last week the family had gone, hey, let's try and cheer ourselves up, and they saw that there was comedy on, and they came to our show, and he basically had come to tell us how uplifting it was and how awesome it was, and it had really helped him cope. So I thought, there you go, I'm doing something good. That was like once, but hey, it's good. So my first open mic gig, and that's not getting paid, right? That's comedians do an apprenticeship where you jump up all over the place and do your stuff without anyone paying you, which is a great way to do an apprenticeship. It's like an internship that everyone's trying to stop from happening. And that was actually at the Sit Down Comedy Club back when the Sit Down Comedy Club was at Dockside. But my first ever paid gig was on my birthday, and it was at a place called Bob's Comedy Cafe. And it was an open mic night, and I was emceeing the open mic night at Bob's Comedy Cafe, and it was at Breakfast Creek, and there were 3 people in the audience. There were more comedians than there were people. It was awesome. Well, come with me right now and we'll have it. No. The first ever corporate gig I did. Now, corporate comedy is very different, right? Because you go to a comedy club and people are there because they want to come to a comedy club and laugh, right? But a corporate dinner is very, very different. And basically, they're not there to see comedy, right? They don't even know there's a comedian on. And on top of that, they're there with all their workmates. And if you say something that's a little edgy or a little bit different, people are scared to laugh in front of their workmates in case they think they're weird for laughing at something, blah, blah, blah. And on top of that, because I had no idea, they brought me on in the middle of dinner. And of course, it's really hard to laugh and eat at the same time. And I had to do a 20-minute set. And there was, in the crowd, in the corporate crowd, there was one person that I knew, and the first couple of jokes, she laughed, and then even she stopped laughing, and all I could hear was kind of like clink, clink, clink of people eating. And I actually jumped down off the stage and I walked across this massive dance floor between me and where the people were, and I'm trying to talk to the crowd, and I actually went up to one guy, had his back to me, and he's kind of like going clink, 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 actually tap him on the back, right? And he just looks over his shoulder with a mouthful of food and goes, what? And I went, oh, g'day, mate, what's your name? And he's gone, John, and kept eating. So basically I went back up onto the stage. I was getting like no response from the crowd, and I had to do 20 minutes, and I'm standing on the stage and I'm telling a joke and I'm watching my watch, and I'm halfway through the gag and I hit 20 minutes and I just walked off. And no one even knew that I was gone. We always get asked this question, and I always give the same answer. There's a comedian out of Nairobi called Dwayne Mbuku, look him up on YouTube. And I'm only saying that because I don't believe there actually is someone called Dwayne Mbuku, but I just want to see lots of people going, oh, I can't find him anywhere. I like the work of Stuart Lee. There you go. But there are also lots of fabulous Brisbane comedians, who aren't like from overseas and that, who do some absolutely stunning work. Probably this interview right now, it's a highlight of my career. It's peaking right at this point in time. I don't know. It's an interesting thing. On one of the tours of New Zealand, doing a gig in, I think it's called the Powerhouse, or maybe it's the Power Station. The Power Station, I think it is. And it's a venue that holds, I think, 1,200 people, and they'd stacked 1,400 people in there. We actually literally had to climb across people to get to the green room, and they were just up for comedy, and I was the first act on. And the first gag that I told, they laughed so hard, and for like more than a minute, which is a long time to laugh, folks. It doesn't sound like a long time, but it is a long time. And I know that it was more than a minute because they were laughing so hard, and I was waiting for it to quieten down, and I looked at my watch. And as soon as I looked at my watch, they laughed even harder. And they just kind of kept going. And I looked at it a couple more times, and from the first time to the last time I looked at it, a minute had gone past. And so that was a really fun gig. Holy crap. It's definitely changed, even if it's just the subject matter. Like when I first started doing comedy, and I came to comedy kind of later in life, right? So I didn't start doing it. And when I first started doing comedy, just about every comedian had a routine about dickheads on their mobile phones. Right, because mobile phones at that stage were really, really rare back in the days when they were big bricks, and there was always some idiot trying to show off that he had or she had a mobile phone. But I do think that the things that you can joke about, or not the things that you can joke about, because you can joke about anything, but what audiences accept as a joke, I think has changed. And some comedians don't want to keep up with that, which is kind of sad. Yeah, don't. No. Yeah, I do. What is next for me in comedy? I suspect I'll be doing another one of these in a couple of weeks' time. I don't know. What I'm really enjoying at the moment is I have a podcast. And I know that this is not a time for advertising, right? But it's not a podcast. It's not just people talking. It's more like a radio play. And it's a Australian political satire called Game of Thongs. So it's Australian politics set in the Game of Thrones era. And I really, really enjoy writing that. We've just started the second season. Or I should just say I've just started the second season. And I do it with a couple of comedian and actor mates who do all the vocal work. We really enjoy doing it, and it's something that I really enjoy. And of course, it's free. You can download it and listen to Game of Thongs. Every episode's about 20 minutes long, and that's what's next for me. Free work.